Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 4 of Entrepreneurial Marketing. This week, we are talking about hearing the voice of your customer. For this week's presentation, it is pretty brief because there's a supplemental video and a blog post that I'd like for you to read to do with the lecture today. So we'll talk about that a little bit more as we go through it, but please recall that everything that I post for you in your lesson folders for the week is testable and will be on your midterm. So be sure that you are keeping up with any videos that are posted or the readings in your book, which are pretty brief. And any supplemental readings or videos or anything that I put in the lesson folders for you. Our topics for this week are understanding on a deeper level customer needs and how exactly, last week we talked about the customer discovery process, about finding where your customers are coming from and understanding what it is that they need by asking them. This week we're talking about how to create positive customer experiences based on what customers are telling you that they need. So the reason that the customer voice matters is because customers purchase things for they're motivated to purchase things for their reasons, not for your reasons. A lot of times, as I've mentioned previously, what's important to us as a brand and what's important to our customers might be two completely different things. And it does not serve us well as a business owner or operator, manager, marketer, whatever, to make assumptions about what we think the customers want, whether it's based on experience or not, because these things are constantly changing and evolving as we move forward. And when you put your product first instead of your customer, it does limit your thinking, it limits your growth, it limits your ability to grow with your customer and to continue to emerge through the market. So, when you have a product focused marketing plan or a product focused organization, you're definitely focusing on features and specifications of products. These are the features and the benefit that this product is going to offer you. It doesn't necessarily say how it will necessarily make your life better, and you don't really have a customer coming out and saying, hey, this is an incredible product that everybody should use. That's really more customer focused, because a customer focused organization is really trying to get to the bottom of what the motivation of the customer is, what makes them want to go out and buy a product. Remember, we talked about the jobs that someone has to do every week. So what job is that person trying to accomplish, and how can our product or service help them accomplish that job and make their life better in the process, and do it better than any other organization or product out there in the world. And the end goal of this is a positive customer experience. Really, you have entire CX, which is customer experience, UX, which is user experience online. You have entire careers that are devoted to, departments of individuals out there who are creating a positive customer experience from the time you walk into a restaurant or a store, right down from the colors that are used, the way that things are displayed, smells that might be in the air, so that you do have a full sensory experience when you walk into a place. Restaurants are laid out specifically for that purpose, depending on what their goal is, if they're family friendly, if it's more of a sports bar type place, whatever. Customer experience is always something that's sort of on the forefront of an organization's mind. You may or may not get this a lot with small business or entrepreneurial businesses sometimes, but it really is important that, especially if you are an entrepreneur and you fancy yourself, you've got this great idea and you want to take it to market and do these great things, what we're talking about this week is really important. So for any of you that have these great ideas to start your own businesses, I want you to bear these types of things in mind, okay? So we talked about discovery of your customers last week. And so there are some really important reasons that you want to start the customer discovery process early. So it's easier to adjust your ideas early on if you have an idea or a notion of where your customers are coming from or what's important to them. You can make some adjustments before you ever take a brand new product or service to market, or before you ever open a new store, or before you ever sell your first widget. You will have an idea of whether or not you're going to be successful because you would have already tested the market, if you will. So it does reduce costly redesigns. It does improve the fit to your product in that marketplace if you are out there asking what it is that people want, and providing those. So there's a couple of methods that you can do, lots of methods actually, ways that you can do this. One of them is by prototyping a product. If you've ever watched the show Shark Tank, a lot of times people are taking products into that space and they are showing the prototype of their product that they have fine-tuned and they have developed to be what you call an MVP, which is the minimum viable product. A prototype is a model that represents a product or a service the way that you want to present it to the market at that moment. You might refine it, you might make it more sophisticated over time, but it's a starting point that you can start to show people and let people touch it, feel it, see if it works or whatever. Your minimum viable product kind of falls into that too, because basically what you're doing, you're creating a basic product that is valuable. It provides value to people. It's feasible for you to create. It's affordable for you to create. It is usable. It works. And you're handing that product to people to say, okay, at its essence, this is what I'm going to provide to you. What do you think? And people will then take that prototype to say, oh, okay. So that way you can gather feedback from people. You can see if they share the vision for what you have for the product or if they're getting something totally else out of what you've just put in their hand. And then there are lots of benefits to prototyping. Basically, it gives you an opportunity to learn a little bit faster about whether or not your idea is going to work, about whether or not people are going to like your idea. And overall, it reduces your risk. So that's kind of the main point of this. So prototyping is really designed to test all of the human senses. Okay, how does it smell? How does it look? How does it feel? How does it taste if it's something that has a taste? All of these things, it should get a visceral sort of reaction from the person who is consuming that product at the time. It's designed to create a quality experience. So this is the quality of my product. What do you think of this product? What does it need more of? What does it need less of? It can help with buy-in. So people being able to see something first, or touch something or taste something first before it is taken to market, and test things out. It definitely matters. And that's really, really important. The same thing goes for services. So what if you don't have a tangible product that you can test out on people? You're testing out a service. Well, it's still important to try your very best to show people what that service might feel like, might look like. I want to show you an example, and I don't know if this is actually really going to show for you because it's huge and this is awkward, but I mentioned that this year is the 100th anniversary of Med Center Health, the place where I work. So about a year ago, we created our logo package to go along with the 100th anniversary. And we put together some prototypes of this that we then took to board meetings, administration meetings, took around our campus to get people's feel for which logos they like. But we wanted to show them kind of what the logos would look like if we put them on some products. So we did this great big poster that I'm going to hold up and show that this is what this logo will look like if we put it on vinyl, if we put it on a shirt. General signage we can put on billboards or what have you, or on various giveaway items. So this is our prototype of the new logo that we put out there. And there are a few different versions of the logo and different things that they can mix and match. And this really helped us get the buy-in. And we did that not just for that particular logo design, which that was the one that was everybody's favorite. So that's the one that we went with, but we did this for multiple different types of logo designs to get people's feel for, oh, well, that looks really cool on a shirt, or, oh, that will work really well in various scenarios. So we also had it printed on some shirts so that people could touch a shirt, feel a shirt, hold a shirt, and see how they felt like it would look. So those prototypes really did help get buy-in for the new logo that we're using for the next year for our 100th anniversary. This is also a part where I want to transition to a video and a blog post that I put out there for you. This particular one, there's a video about the Google Glass product and its success and or failure. so, so I do want you to maybe pause, back out, go back into the lesson folder and check out the video about the customer-centered approach of the Google Glass and how that went, and then jump back in and join us. So, what we learn as part of the Google Glass video, which if you haven't watched it yet, when you're done with this, go watch it, please. You can prototype services, you can prototype apps, you can prototype websites. The experience that is generated from all of those things is as important as the product itself that you're selling. The experience that people have with it, or going around a website or whatever. In this case, Google learned that failure isn't always bad. The consumer market really didn't have much of a purpose for the early iterations of the Google Glass, but the industrial market loved it and they thought it was great. So basically, I mean, they learned something positive. It didn't go over the way that they assumed that it would go or that they hoped that it would go, but it went another direction that maybe they weren't planning on. So, so that is what prototyping and creating your MVP can do for you. So there are different types of prototyping tools. In my business, in marketing, we actually use storyboards quite a bit, and personas. If you've ever developed a persona in any of your previous marketing classes, I know a lot of the marketing classes that I teach, we do write personas in several of them, as opposed to role playing. But we absolutely write personas and use storyboards to kind of sketch out the stories that we want to tell and to decide if this is going to work, if it's going to be a hit, or if it's going to be a miss. So, for example, a recent commercial that we wrote recently, we sent it to our video production company and said, "Okay, you know, this is our commercial. This is what we're hoping to accomplish. This is who we're trying to reach, and this is sort of the visual idea that we have." So they took it and they put it in a storyboard for us, and we took it to the departments that we're representing in that commercial, and we were like, "Okay, can you visualize this with us?" They were like, "Oh yeah, actually, this is really cool. And we think that you should actually add more people to this than the people that you're featuring." Like, wow, okay, well, thank you for that feedback. So basically, it clarifies the process. It persuades the people who are stakeholders in this. In this case, it's the department that we're shooting this commercial for, is our cancer services, multiple departments that kind of fall under cancer services. But, you know, we went and we talked to them. We let them know, you know, here's what the data tell us about who your patients are and where they're coming from. Does that sound right to you? Yes, that sounds right to us. Okay, what else are you hearing from them? And they shared that with us. And I said, okay, so, you know, our goal was to show a commercial that talks about the personalized service that is provided to patients at our cancer services center that you can't necessarily get at a larger place. So, what's in it for me as a prospective patient or maybe a caregiver of a patient? If you go over here versus going over there, perhaps you're going to perceive as though you get more personalized service. We want you to feel definitely that you got more personalized and specialty service here than going across town and maybe or driving to Nashville and feeling like you're farmed through a system like cattle. That's really tough for some people. They definitely want to know that people have their back. So um, all of these are business tools. And trying to think in your mind, and I do this a lot in marketing as well in my everyday job. What's the worst that could happen scenarios? If you're going to post something on social media, what what might the negative commentary sound like? Do you need to change the way you word things? Are you inviting people to troll one another and make jokes or laugh at you or poke holes in whatever you posted? We look at that all the time. Are there needs that people have that you have identified through your discovery process that maybe you have not addressed through your product or service that you need to address how you will meet those needs? It's really important. Like I said, you know, you go through your primary research, you ask your customers questions about what they need, what they want. You do your secondary research, you learn some data about what's out there. And then you put those things together, and then you are able to hopefully start testing things and preventing some risk and some redevelopment and redesign along the way, because you already tested it on the front end. So it really does support agile development, going out and testing things, testing websites, testing social media posts, testing commercials, testing logos, testing all the things. A lot of people, a great example actually happened yesterday. The Bardstown Bourbon Company, which is located just outside of Bardstown. You can see it right there off the side of the parkway when you're driving to Lexington or Versailles or Bardstown or any of those places up there. They decided to change their packaging, and they felt like their packaging change was addressing some needs that their customers had stated that, well, you've got 5 different kinds of bourbon, but the way that your package is made, I can't tell one from the other. So I don't know which one I'm buying because I can't tell the difference between this one and that one. So they changed. They made some color changes, and the color changes really weren't the problem. They have a really sharp brand mark. Their logo, it looks like the letter B inside a little bourbon barrel, and it's a sharp looking logo. They dropped the logo. They dropped this really beautiful sort of design that they have on the interior of the glass of their bottles. They got rid of that. So now it has a very generic look and feel. Looking through some of the comments on their Facebook post about it last night, people were tearing them up. They were like, ooh, swing and a miss. So people were not loving the changes that they made to their logo, much like about this time last year when Cracker Barrel released their new logo and decided that they were going to start redesigning their stores, redesigning their restaurants, and people went berserk. They hated the idea. Nobody liked it. Everybody went nuts, and Cracker Barrel was like, okay, we hear you. We're going to go back. So you have to wonder if it was just, someone sitting around a boardroom table somewhere making these decisions, or did they actually go out and survey the market to see, and how many people did they survey? You can't go out in your market and survey 20 people and think that that's enough to give you an answer for what you should do. So, how much time and investment did these organizations make in learning what people really wanted from their product or service? And was it really necessary to completely do a 180 with their product packaging or design? So these are 2 really good examples just of a logo redesign, or a product redesign, or a restaurant or retail space redesign that really, really missed the mark into one very, very popular brand, one maybe less known brand, but very popular in its industry, certainly. So I'm sure that you all could probably think of some examples of where brands miss the mark, maybe with some of the brands that you follow. So I've mentioned MVP a couple of times. It's hard for me to say that without running the letters together. So minimum viable product. So it is minimum because it's very basic, but it still provides value. So think if you went to the store and you bought a generic tube of whatever that is. Whatever is in that tube, it's not flashy, it's not pretty, probably doesn't even smell like anything, but it's valuable. There's a tube of something here that you might need. It's useful. It was probably pretty easy to create and make and fill whatever the product was inside that tube, and it works. So the goal here is to take whatever that product is that's inside that tube and launch it out to the market and see what people think. You don't want them to judge based on packaging just yet. You want them to test the product itself first to see if the product is viable. And you can hear back on what they think of the product. Maybe we need to change the fragrance of the product. Maybe we need to change the texture of the product. Maybe we need to change the color of the product. Remember, it's the senses. So touch, feel, smell, taste, whatever it is, you'll test it first before you work on the packaging. And then once you have some idea of fine-tuning your product, then you can move forward. Okay, so that's what your MVP is. So, I want to speak for a minute about your assignments for the week. So, this week we have a discussion board that will be due on Sunday. So, this week we're going to talk about customer centric organizations. So, I have posted it out there for you so that you can go and see what it's all about and then hopefully write a very thoughtful discussion board post. Please remember, I feel compelled to remind you all that you need to cite your sources. Um, Even the most simple, even if you're citing a website that you pulled something off of. Unless you cite a source, it's just your opinion, and your opinion is not fact. So you have to be sure to cite your sources, please. So go out there, watch videos, read the blog posts. I'm hoping that in the next couple weeks, we're going to, after the midterm, we're going to get into your final project and get started on that, which will be hopefully designing a marketing plan for a small business, ideally a real small business. But in the meantime, we're still going to learn about some additional fun entrepreneurial businesses and hopefully maybe next week check out some podcasts and stuff. So I hope everybody has a great week. You've made it through the first 4 weeks. There's only 3 months left. So 4 months a semester. So you're already a quarter of the way through. So congratulations. And thanks for your attention this week.